Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with episode 54 of our Reddit series. This one's going to be some more ProRevenge, and I know you're going to love this one. Just want to say a quick thank you for all the love on yesterday's video. We are now super close to 225,000 subscribers, and that is amazing. If we could hit that mark today, that would be incredible. With that out of the way, sit back, relax, and laugh at some ProRevenge. This basically happened like 3 weeks ago. I moved out of my mother's house since I was going off to university to study math and physics. My brother had a girlfriend who I really liked and respected. I soon accepted her as part of my family. She used to spend a lot of time at our place because her parents were a nightmare. They were pretty poor, which doesn't have anything to do with them being horrible parents, just for context, but they also were stingy AF. Here in Germany, you'll get money for your child to buy them food, provide shelter, warmth, and clothes. Her parents didn't spend any of her child money on her or buy anything for her. She had to sleep in a dark, cold room, buy her own clothes, and got no pocket money. The only money she got was from her job being a post girl. The job only amounted to 48 euros total in a month, and her bus ticket would already cost her 58 euros, so she had to ask her mother to lend her something, which she would then have to pay back. Her parents didn't want her to move out or go study since she was way too intelligent for them to ever control, unlike her simple brother. When she said she wanted to move together with my brother into the city, where she had gotten an apprenticeship, her mother nearly exploded. She actually had hoped that she wouldn't get the job, so she could realize how stupid she was for wanting a good future for herself. You can imagine how much her parents hated my brother. Fast forward a little bit, I came back home to stay for a few weeks at home, visiting friends and relatives. She is as usual at our house, but my mother then told me that she was living here permanently, being registered exactly at my home address. I am a little stunned, as I'd only some days before that suggested this very thing to her, and she said that she didn't want to break ties with her family. But things changed when her mum tried to cut up her prom dress that she'd been given by my mother as a present. She was furious about what her mother wanted to do. She just explained that she never got such a nice dress, so why would her daughter? My brother's girlfriend just called my brother. My mother then drove him to her since his car is getting fixed. They just packed up the most stuff they could carry, not including a lot of stuff my brother's girlfriend had gotten as a present since she didn't pay for it, so it wasn't hers. So her bike, her clothes given to her by her aunt, and some of the presents she'd gotten from my brother had to be left behind since she was threatening with the cops. The last words they said to her were, "You can always come back to us when he's beaten you black and blue. We love you." My brother can be an effing a-hole, but he's never got violent towards anyone. Since this day, she is still living with us. Now, here comes the juice. Since my mother is really good with law and legal stuff, we have gotten her parents to pay her the child money that they are now owing her. We also requested for a money support for her since she's got no income. She is only 18, so she will get a lot of money, plus her child money, plus the apprenticeship earnings, plus a little extra from our family. Since she isn't living with her family anymore, they were getting Wohngeld, which is a financial support given to you per person and square meter of your living space, and the Wohnungsgeld also gets a lot less. Mind you, her parents were gifting themselves smartwatches and laptops for Christmas. My brother's girlfriend had gotten a shampoo bottle with a discount label on it. So after a few days, they realized they were in a lot of financial doo-doo and had to pay her back 4 months of child support, which they couldn't. They pleaded for the amount to be halved, which my brother's girlfriend could have agreed to, but she just took a pen and said, "F that," crossed out their plea and put it back in the envelope. She now doesn't have anything to do with her family anymore, who tried through multiple means to get to her. I really admire her for staying that cool all these years. She rocks. Well, as parents, I guess that's what you get for treating your daughter like crap for all those years. It finally came back to bite them. I guess you do good things and good things happen. You treat your daughter like crap all those years and you can't live your lavish lifestyle anymore. Also, here's hoping I pronounce those German words right. I'm often not very good, but at least I gave it a go. I used to work for a company that rented furniture and appliances with no credit checks. My job was to get renters to make their payments, or if they couldn't, arrange for them to return the products. The place where I worked was fairly remote. We basically served 4 small towns, 2 of them 2 hours drive away from the store. One of the towns was located next to a state prison, so many of our customers were ex-cons who needed to furnish their homes for cheap after getting out. Most of them were good customers, but enough of them tried to use scare tactics that I quickly got inured to them. We also had a customer who was a sheriff's deputy. He liked renting stuff because it meant that he and his wife could redecorate whenever they wanted. One day, a guy comes in and buys an expensive leather living room set for cash. When the guys deliver it, they saw that he had a huge brand new house on several acres of land. Knowing this, the next time he came in, this time to rent, my manager let him rent pretty much an entire house full of stuff. He never made a single payment on it. He lived in one of those towns 2 hours away, so I had to try and collect over the phone mostly. I kept expecting him to just change his number, but he never did. Instead, he'd answer his phone and curse and threaten me, asking if I knew who he was. I didn't, but I found out a couple of months later. This guy was the #1 drug dealer in his little town, so we'll call him DD from here out. It was a pretty open secret, so we heard this from several other customers. Now, this wasn't just about the money and my collection numbers, this guy had threatened me. Normally when this happened, I just drive to the person's house, which was usually a trailer, to call his bluff, knowing that our delivery truck could crush a trailer if things turned violent. It never did though. That wouldn't work on DD since his house was brick and surrounded by a brick wall, so I formed a plan. The next time our deputy customer came in, I asked him if he knew of DD. I did not explain why, but the deputy probably suspected that DD owed us money. He said he didn't know DD, but he could check if the guy had any outstanding warrants. That seemed unlikely since DD was pretty easy to find in that town, but I said sure. Check for me. DD had a bench warrant for a failure to appear in court for a traffic ticket. The deputy asked if I had DD's address and I gave it to him. Our contract specifically said that we could release customer info to law enforcement in the event of non-payment, so this was not illegal or a violation of policy. The deputy couldn't get a search warrant for a traffic violation, but he could wait until DD left his house, pull him over and arrest him. Unfortunately, DD didn't leave home often, and the sheriff's department was spread too thin to stake him out for the required time to catch him. Plus, since DD's house was on the outskirts of town, it would be hard for the cops not to be seen anyway. I was going to have to give the cops a little help. I started letting customers from that town know that if they saw DD and let me know, I'd give them an extension on their payments. I was allowed to give 2-week extensions at my discretion, and people always like being allowed to put off their payments. It took less than a week before somebody saw DD going into the town's only movie theater. Perfect. I called the deputy, let him know, and he had plenty of time to get there and catch DD leaving. Since DD had a warrant, the deputy could arrest him on the spot, and an arrest suspect was automatically probable cause for the search of the vehicle. Naturally, the cops found drugs in DD's car, which got them a warrant for his house, where he had tons more, and DD went to prison. Since there was stolen property, our stuff in the house when they searched it, the cops called the rifle owners and allowed us to collect it too. It strikes me as odd that this one doesn't have more upvotes. This has been up for a few days, it has an amazing upvote percentage, but only 1.1k upvotes. To me, this one's some really good and well thought out revenge. At the end of the day, it's probably bordering on nuclear revenge because did the punishment really fit the crime? But at the end of the day, he got what he wanted and he got his stuff back. Sounds like a little win for everyone except the drug dealer. Fresh out of high school, I worked with an older gentleman at an appliance repair shop. He had a problem with someone driving through his sleepy rural subdivision at night running over mailboxes. There were no curbs or ditches, so the vandals could easily just drive down the side of the road and hit the mailboxes square on with their front bumper. This was happening regularly and before the age of cheap security cameras. Catching them wasn't possible without physically sitting outside and waiting. Being a rural county, the sheriff's department had better things to do. After replacing his mailbox post several times, it was time for dramatic measures. He went to a local machine shop and bought an 8-foot length of rusty 3-inch solid shaft stock out of a scrap pile, pulled the broken 4x4 post out of the ground and sank this shaft 5 feet deep into a 12-inch diameter hole filled with concrete, with help obviously. A plate was then welded to the top for mounting the mailbox. Then, a friend who was a finished carpenter clad the whole thing in wood to make it look like an ordinary mailbox post. All was quiet for a couple of weeks, but then one Sunday morning, my friend gets up and walks out to get the paper and sees wood shards, grill, and headlight pieces surrounding the still standing mailbox with antifreeze soaked into the dirt. The moron had hit the previous 6 mailboxes leading up to his as well. Never caught the vandal, but he knows they were driving a Volvo. And it never happened again. I don't know if this is just a US thing, but I swear I never hear of this kind of incident happening where I'm from. I don't know if it's just me, but I really don't see the fun in driving on someone's yard and destroying their mailbox. There's a high chance you're gonna ruin your car and it just seems pointless. Honestly, if you do this, you deserve some kind of treatment like this. When I was a kid, my mother was a real piece of work. Since age 7, I was coming home alone from school thinking it was because she was at work like my dad. But she was just out with her boyfriend or shopping. The occasional days when I would forget my keys and it was raining were the worst, sitting on the steps trying not to get rained on. My mother loved to hit me, including with a belt. Her favourite way to really make me suffer was to tell me when we were out together that something I had done meant I was getting the belt when we got home. When my parents landed in a divorce court, my mother told me that she was going to fight for me as if that's what I wanted. She said the judge would never directly ask me who I wanted to live with, but she hinted that I could signal to the judge my preference. Over the years of discovery and trial, things were pretty crappy. My relationship with my dad wasn't all that much better, but he was much less violent and he tried much harder. And he actually had a job and provided for the family. My mother, however, continued to hit me when she felt like it, and I continued to grow. One day, when I was probably around 11 or 12, we had an argument standing in the doorway to my bedroom, and for some reason she yelled at me saying, "You son of a b." In the spur of the moment, I paused, considered the meaning, smiled knowingly, and said, "Son of a b? You're right." It took her a few seconds to realize what had happened, and she pulled her arm back to slap me hard across the face. As she did, I put up my arm and caught her forearm before she could hit me. I stared her in the eye and simply said, "Never again." It wasn't too much longer before the judge in the divorce case called me into his chambers to ask me questions. After a bunch of beating around the bush, he came right out and asked if I had a preference who to live with. My response was the inverse of this scene from The Simpsons that was written many years later. By the way, I'll have this one in the pinned comment. A few months later, my dad announced that he won the court case, which means he got me, the house, and all of the money. My mother went to live with her boyfriend, who she married and then divorced her too. There was another husband after that, and he divorced her as well. Honestly, this lady sounds like a lovely woman. She only had 3 people divorce her, and quite frankly, I'm sure in her mind it was all their fault. But on a more serious note, if you go around hitting your kids, threatening them, trying to make them feel like crap about themselves, quite frankly, you don't deserve to have kids. I get that your kids get under your skin, but there are so many better ways to deal with it than hitting them with a belt. Alright everyone, that is that for today's episode of ProRevenge. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the video. So we haven't done this subreddit for a little while, and it actually did go really well last time. I think it was sitting at about 600,000 views, but it seemed like a lot of you guys liked the Nuclear Revenge series as well, so make sure to let me know in the comments what you want to see. I'm pretty easy with the types of videos I make, as long as it's what you guys actually want to watch. Oh, also, I think I mentioned this at the start of the video, but we are so close to 225,000 subscribers. We are absolutely rocketing along. I think it was less than a month ago that we hit 50,000, so I really cannot thank all of you enough. Just a reminder as well, I do have an Instagram and a Twitter. If you want to follow me on those, they are both at Bumfris, and I've been responding to a lot of messages recently on those, so if you do want to send me a message, please feel free to, and I'll do my absolute best to respond. But otherwise, I am going to let that wrap things up for today's video. I just want to say again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all tomorrow for some more Entitled Parents. Bye.